What's going on, guys? This is the team report of my first place U.S. Nationals, aka North American International Championships team. This team was my first tournament that I've won since I won Charlotte in 2018, which was over a year ago. And it means a lot to me because it's the first time that I've done well at this event, technically since its inception, and literally since 2015, where I got top 8 at what was then U.S. Nationals. So this event to me, it meant a lot. There was a lot on the line. My goal from the beginning, at the start of the season, was to finish in the top 8 of overall championship points, and for the first majority of the season, up until my last 3 events, I was doing pretty poorly. I actually went to more regionals than I ever have in a single season. I went to 5. Actually, I ended up going to 6, I think, which is absolutely insane. I don't think I ever went above 4 before. 6 regionals is quite a lot, and I, with the exception of my last one, I did pretty poorly at all of them. I finished 21st to 22nd, despite working really hard. I know a lot of you guys watched my Dallas VGC prep, I believe. That series was for with my Palkia team. I went 6-2 there. I went pretty much X2 at all of them, and I think I had 1 X3 as well. So after the start of the season, it was looking pretty bad for my chances for finishing in the top 8 points of for the US or for North America. And the reason that's important is because the top 8 in points get to skip the first day of Worlds. So after last year, I started off 5-0 at Worlds, lost the next 3. I needed to win 7, so I was 5-0, had to win 2 of the next 5, and lost 3 in a row. So after last year, that's why my goal was to finish in the top 8. Also, sorry about my hair. I don't know why it looks like that. I can't do anything about it. But yeah, my goal is to finish in the top 8, and after the first part of the season, the first 2 series actually, 2/3 of the season at least, I was doing pretty poorly. I was in 20-something. I think I had 400 points. But once Ultra Series rolled around, I started doing well again. I got top 4 in Berlin with my Yveltal Kyogre team. That team is in this. Both the Yveltal Kyogre team and the Yveltal Groudon team, which I got top 4 at Madison, were in the sub Discord as well as this team. But now this team is public anyway. But yeah, so I got top 4 in Berlin with Yveltal Kyogre, which was really good. I lost to a strong player with a tough matchup for me, and then I got top 4 in Madison as well, which is a regional rather than international with my Shedinja, Feeny, Incineroar, Yveltal, Groudon, Gengar team. I used Gengar and Incineroar at all 3 tournaments. And now, finally, I've won the North American International Championship. So, we're doing a team report. Aaron Trailer and I, who were the 2 people who built and used the team at the event. We had help building with primarily EMBC, Eduardo. Shout out to him, and also Brendan Zhang. Other people helped as well. But yeah, we're doing a team report. So that'll be more in depth, talk a lot more about, pretty much everything. That'll go with a lot more in the building process and stuff. This is mainly just for me to do a quick video about it and go over the spreads and stuff. So yeah, so basically going into the event, I was 8th in points, but I needed to do well. In the end, it turns out I needed to finish in top 16 to earn my day 2 invite, finish in the top 8 of points. So that was a lot of pressure, given that 2016 I went 5-4, I think. 2017 I went 2-3 drop, and 2018 I went either 6-3 or something 5-3 drop, maybe, I don't know. Maybe the next 4, I don't remember. So yeah, the last 3 years I've had a lot of trouble at this event in particular, and I was nervous going in because, we were, once again, so Aaron Trailer and I built together last year as well. We used Hitmontop, Volcarona, Tapu Fini. No, actually, I don't remember if we had Fini. But we used Hitmontop, Volcarona, which was not a common archetype for that tournament. It was quite unusual, actually, and we lost, neither of us made day 2, and so once again we were kind of using a Pokemon that was strong in previous formats, aka Celesteela, that didn't have much results, similar to Hitmontop and Volcarona in this format. So I was pretty nervous going in, and we built this team. I didn't have as much practice with this team as I would have liked. We definitely built it enough in advance that I was practiced with it and I had some experience, but I feel like if I had more time to prep, then I could have my Incineroar was probably not ideal. The Gengar slot was not good in the end. Those are the 2 main weaknesses, actually, and so maybe I would have realized that, but it was just, we were working really hard, and it was just I was very busy, and we just didn't come up with this framework until we got pretty close to the event. So yeah, anyway, so going into the event, also, yeah, sorry if you just want the spread, but I figured I may as well talk about the whole thing. So anyway, like I said, I think I've covered most of what I wanted to talk about. There was a lot on the line. I needed to finish in the top 16 in order to get my top 8, but I didn't know that going in. This is an event that I traditionally have done pretty poorly at. So going in, I had my eye personally on 2 teams to beat. The first was Paul's team, which is Tepalele, Incineroar, Amoonguss, Salamence, and then Groudon Xerneas with special fast Groudon and then max speed Xerneas as well. That was one of the teams. The other team was the team that Jive Time used to finish top 4 at Madison, which was Rayquaza, Kyogre, Incineroar, Coco, Stakataka, and Whimsicott. And then also Aaron Trailer wanted to focus on Kangaskhan, Tornadus, Xerneas, Groudon, but I didn't pay that much attention to it, but I probably should have in the end. So those are the three teams going in, and the problem was for Paul's team, right? In the past and in this season, what I've been trying to do to beat Groudon Xerneas is use Mega Gengar. And the problem is that Tapu Lele does a really, really good job against Mega Gengar because it outspeeds it. And so if you're relying on stuff like Mega Gengar to beat, Tapu Lele, or to beat Groudon Xerneas, and now all of a sudden they have a Tapu Lele, it's going to be really difficult. And so the problem is that the two main Steel-type Pokemon that people have been using to stop Groudon Xerneas, or stop Xerneas in general, which are Stakataka and Bronzong. Stakataka loses to Groudon, especially Earth Power Groudon, and Incineroar just shuts down Bronzong, especially now that Dark Z is a thing. And so, not to mention Intimidate and stuff. And so, that left me in a really tough position, because I was trying to think, like, how do we stop this team, this Groudon Xerneas team, when you can't use Poison type, you can't use Gengar because of Lele, and you can't use the Steel types because of Incineroar and Groudon, which are on every Xerneas team, right? Or, every Xerneas team is most likely to have Incineroar. I'd be shocked if a good one didn't have it. So with that in mind, that's kind of how we decided to start with Celesteela. So this team might look like a standard Kyogre, but the actual order of things is, this is where we started. This was the core. The first four was where we started, and then the last two kind of filled in. The original version of this team, when I was just testing the concept against Zerndon, I just threw on, I think Togedemaru Yveltal. So we started with Gengar, Kyogre, Celesteela, and Incineroar. Sorry, Gengar. So yeah, the idea is that, Celesteela is good against Zerndon. It's not like an auto win, but it's very, very good against it, and it provides nice support for Kyogre as well. And in combination with Gengar, Gengar is very good as well against Zerndon. However, there are some Pokemon that it's not good against, and so basically Gengar ended up being not very good in this tournament, to be honest, but it's mainly because the Zerndon that I played against had Pokemon that I didn't want to bring Gengar against. For example, Kangaskhan Tornadus, I didn't really want to bring it against, and then things like opposing Mega Gengar and Tapu Koko, because I don't like going for speed ties with Gengar. With Rayquaza and Koko, you kind of had to sometimes, but with Gengar especially, the risk reward's really not in your favor, or I don't know, it just didn't feel good to me. And so with that in mind, the idea behind Gengar was that Gengar and Celesteela do a really good job shutting down Xerneas, because even if they have Lele, what you can do is lead Gengar Celesteela, and you can protect with both, or if they lead Incineroar, you can just to get Shadow Tag up, and then Heavy Slam still KOs Celesteela after Intimidate. So you have a pretty safe, I don't know, you can switch to Incineroar, you can Mega Evolve, trap the Lele in, and then, Heavy Slam into it and switch out into either Kyogre if they have Groudon on the field, or Incineroar if they have Incineroar on the field, or, there's a lot of things you can do. You can switch into Kyogre turn 1 and Heavy Slam because that's relatively safe. It also depends on their set, and so yeah, that was the idea behind Gengar. It was really just there for Zerndon and X-Ray as well. In my experience, the things that beat Zerndon also beat Groudon, or Xerneas Rayquaza. And so, yeah, that was the idea behind Gengar. The moves, I think Substitute's really good at Mega Gengar. I think it's, pretty nice. It's just nice because Gengar is, especially with the spread, in the past I used bulky Gengar, but once Madison rolled around, I kind of realized the bulk doesn't really do that much for you, and the special attack can matter, especially versus Xerneas, because fast Xerneas don't, it's a chance to KO with Sludge Bomb, especially when you consider the poison chance. And so, with that in mind, I was max special attack is probably fine. This is a Pokemon I didn't get to test that much. And again, a lot of it depended on my matchups as well, right? Where I felt very prepared for Paul's team, and I felt very prepared for the team that Paul brought to Madison, and also the team that Paul brought to Nationals, I think he just changed Lele for Feeny, but both of those teams I felt I had a very strong matchup with this Gengar, but in the end I didn't play any of those, and the Zerndon that I did play were all either had Koko or Gengar or some other weird stuff. And because my Gengar doesn't have Shadow Ball, I didn't want to use it against other Gengar, because if I brought Gengar, Kyogre, Celesteela, and Incineroar, I just straight up lost to Koko. I didn't want to bring it against Koko. And so, in the end, this Gengar was pretty bad. Sludge Bomb's non-negotiable in my opinion. I mean, I know Ashton ran, I think Shadow Ball protects sub Parasong Gengar, but in my opinion, what I used Gengar for, what I was trying to use Gengar for was as a Xerneas counter, so you need Sludge Bomb on it. Substitute, like I said, extends its longevity. It also is very good both against Incineroar and with Incineroar. Sub is nice because you can burn the Z move, and also if they U-turn, you can get a sub up. Yeah, and then Icy Wind, I wasn't really sure with the last move. I kind of felt like Hidden Power Water was cheesy, and this is the set that I brought to Madison as well, with Sub, Sludge Bomb, Icy Wind. I didn't think Parasong was especially good, especially on a team like this. Because this Gengar was pretty much only brought for the Groudon Xerneas matchup, Icy Wind is nice because it does a ton to Salamence, a lot of damage to Salamence, where any chip will pick it up. And then it paired with my Kyogre as well, where my Kyogre was very fast, and after an Icy Wind, outsped the whole team, except for Scarflele, obviously. So, yeah. Also, my team didn't have any speed control outside of Icy Wind and Gengar and Rayquaza, and so that was another reason for it. One last little note about Gengar is that, in general, I don't like to have Pokemon that speed tie on my team. I think that's super stupid, but then obviously Gengar and Koko both speed tie, and actually have the same spread. In this case, it was fine because I literally never brought Gengar with Koko. And I put 4 in special defense rather than HP because it might do something for Xerneas, but the real thing is I think if you put it in HP, then you can't sub 4 times. And so, yeah. But yeah, Gengar was the weakest member of this team by far. I brought it almost never. When I did bring it, I had a good chance to lose. Contrary to where in Madison, where when I brought it, I won almost every game that I brought it to. So, yeah, Gengar I pretty much only brought versus Xerneas, and I didn't even bring it versus Xerneas Kyogre. I think James Beck had that, and yeah, I wouldn't even bring it into that matchup. So, yeah, it was pretty much just for X-Ray and Zerndon. I didn't play any Raydon, but I wouldn't have brought it there. So yeah, that's Gengar. Pairs well with Kyogre, pairs well with Incineroar, and then pairs well offensively with Celesteela. And that's all I want to say about that. My spreads are kind of basic this time, but they did what they wanted to, what I wanted them to. This is Kyogre. Juice. The nicknames are all Lizzo themed. The songs are pretty explicit, so if you're a child, please don't listen to them. But if you're an adult or you have parental guidance, you can listen to them. But yeah, Truth Hurts. Not my best nickname, but I think it's solid. We weren't sure who to name Juice, but Aaron Trailer said that Kyogre uses Juice attacks, and it's a Juice Pokemon, so that's why we use Kyogre. In terms of the moves, Protect and Ice Beam are obviously essential in my opinion. As is Water Spout. I think you need a very good reason to not be running Water Spout in Kyogre. Water Spout's just so busted, it's actually dumb. And then for Origin Pulse, it was the Lost Fault's Origin Pulse versus Scald. This is the set that I brought. This is the moves that I brought to Worlds. I'm comfortable with it. I wasn't that worried about Wide Guard. And I just find Origin Pulse to be much better than Scald, even though of course missing is a big problem. But in general, I think Origin Pulse is more worth it. And yeah, I missed Origin Pulses. I hit Origin Pulses. It's inconsistent, right? So ideally, you don't want to be relying on it, but it's just such a good move that it's hard to turn down because it's so good. Obviously, this did leave me open to be getting Wide Guarded, but I don't think there was a single time in the tournament where I was like, oh no, I lose the Wide Guard. So I don't know. Maybe there's not that much Wide Guard. Obviously, now that we may have popularized Celesteela, that we might have to reassess that. But yeah, in terms of the spread is interesting. So I've been running this kind of middle bulk spread. I brought it to Berlin, and then I ran a middle speed Groudon with which wasn't bulky or offensive enough, and it wasn't fast enough, and that was really bad in Madison. And so I was thinking about it, and I was like, well, I was looking at my Berlin spread, and I was like, well, this I wouldn't be losing that much special attack, and I wouldn't be losing that much bulk to increase the speed, to max speed, because I was already running. I made an update to my Berlin team, and I think I either made it a little faster or something, but after Berlin, after I updated the team, I had 20 special attack EVs on Kyogre, and I was like, that just doesn't seem worth it, right? I may as well just run 4 EVs. And then I was looking at the calcs that the defense did, and it was stuff that was never really coming up. It was something with Precipice Blades, maybe max attack Adamant Precipice Blades was a 3-hit KO. I don't exactly remember the calc, but I was like, this really isn't worth it, right? This never comes up. I always intimidate the Pokemon that I'm dealing with on the physical side. I'm not losing that much defense. I may as well just take a couple sacrifices and run max speed. And so that's what I did. It's really good, max speed Kyogre. The bulk would be nice at times, but you know what? To be honest, I never really missed the bulk, because it's only physical bulk, and it's only a couple times it really comes into play, versus Rayquaza and versus Salamence. With things that hit hard on the physical side, and I guess Groudon, but that doesn't come up that much, and Wild Charge Koko, but I think you died to that anyway. So yeah, I'm glad I went max speed. It was nice to first of all, outspeeding Smeargle is nice. It didn't come up that often, but the fact that I had 4 Pokemon that outsped Smeargle was really nice. And just being max speed, for example, versus Pato, realizing I didn't get to play him in top 8 because unfortunately he was given a loss. But I realized that something that I could do that I didn't realize in Swiss that was pretty valuable on my side was he was running slow Xerneas. So the fact that my Kyogre could outspeed that meant that I felt much more solid going into that match in particular. And any time where Xerneas was undersped by my Kyogre, I just felt like I had a huge lead. Another thing that I think is kind of underrated is getting the Water Spout off before the opponent versus opposing Kyogre. Having the faster Kyogre, you wouldn't think it comes into play that much, but in my experience, it does. And so that's why I ran max speed Kyogre. It ended up being pretty good. Graham, I know ran Timid. He ran Timid Kyogre. I think I wasn't willing to go that fast. I didn't think it was worth winning the speed tie against the speed war against opposing Kyogre is nice, but the power, in my opinion, is too valuable. And I wasn't comfortable going Timid, and it never really even occurred to me, because you're really just running modest to speed creep stuff, but yeah, it's not that valuable in the end. It's not it's valuable, it's worthwhile, but only it depends on what you're giving up, right? So I was giving up a little defense and a little special attack that I would have had otherwise, because I was already running I already had to be like an icy win number, right, because of Rayquaza, so I already had to be at least 134 stat, so I may as well just go all the way, you know? That's a mistake I made in Madison, where I was 135 stat Groudon. Next up, Celesteela. I'm very proud of this spread. This thing was the MVP of the tournament. It's Adamant, max HP, 124 attack, 132 special events. This is probably one of the only two interesting spreads in the team. Protect is mandatory in my opinion. Heavy Slam and Wide Guard are also mandatory. And then Leech Seed, you don't need Leech Seed in my opinion, but it's very, very good. It's nice because it lets Celesteela 1v1 stuff, and there's not, that many better moves that you could be running. So this thing, like I already mentioned, kind of the purpose of it was mainly to beat Paul's team, but it also there's just a lot of teams that couldn't touch it. I would bring it versus Kyogre if I thought that they didn't have, or versus Kyogre in general if I thought that if I knew that they didn't have a spread or a single target water move, like if they had Origin Pulse, and like versus my Kyogre I could bring it because that way I could Wide Guard, and I did that in finals actually, like a Kyogre without single target water moves, because Wide Guard just shutting it down is Wide Guard is just an amazing attack in this format. Yeah. Celesteela benefits a lot from this team because Incineroar protects on the physical side, which is obviously not that bulky. Kyogre eliminates the fire weakness, and Rayquaza eliminates the electric weakness. So at any point, I can have a no-weakness Celesteela. Not at the same time, because I'd need both Kyogre and Rayquaza on the field, but I had two Pokemon that could eliminate Celesteela's weaknesses, which was actually huge. Like, because Heavy Slam does a lot of damage, like a lot of damage with this spread. Because it's, versus pretty much all the non-restricted Pokemon, it's 120 base power. And that coming off a base, 150 attack stat, with stab is very, very strong. Celesteela also forces your opponent to deal with it because you can't just ignore it, or else like it will Leech Seed everything, it will Heavy Slam everything. Like the fact that Heavy Slam 2 KOs Mega Kangaskhan is crazy. And like I remember I was doing 50% to KO as well with Heavy Slam, so it's just such a good like the reason why my Celesteela is offensive here is because it allows it to not just be ignored. It doesn't have the problem that Ferrothorn has, where you can just ignore Ferrothorn, which is how I beat it. When I played it, is I tried to ignore it and then just beat it by, having more Pokemon left at the end and just attacking it that way. So with Heavy Slam Celesteela, that's offensive, with the goal being to attack until Leech Seed is better. It puts on so much pressure, and the damage is not insignificant, especially when you consider that you have very fast threats like Rayquaza and Koko that can pick up the slack. Yeah, Heavy Slam is not a joke. Like, Heavy Slam into Koko puts it in Extreme Speed range, Heavy Slam into Medicham puts it into Extreme Speed range. You guys saw how much, +1 Heavy Slam. Oh yeah, also if you get a Beast Boost, things get very scary. This thing's also very good against Ultra Necrozma, really, really good, and Psy Spam in general. Although I did lose to Gary, but that was a bit cheesy to say the least. But yeah, I had a match against Jake Powell in the last round of Swiss Day 1, and I think the game was over in 4 turns because I led Celesteela and Heavy Slam Terrakion for the KO, or Heavy Slam Boomsicon for the KO maybe, and then Heavy Slam Terrakion, and then Heavy Slam Ultra Necrozma. It was just over very quickly. Yeah. Celesteela was definitely the MVP. The moves are really good. The spread is actually really interesting, and I'm quite proud of it. With leftovers, it makes Xerneas Moonblast a 3-hit KO, which is really good. I boosted Xerneas Moonblast to 3-hit KO. And offensively, it Okos Tapu Lele after Intimidate, and it 2-hit KOs Xerneas if they're not bulky after Intimidate. So even Intimidate's not enough to stop Celesteela's damage output, which is, frankly, very huge. And again, if you get a KO, you get an attack boost. Yeah, so that was Celesteela. I think that's all I want to say. Wide Guard's amazing. Leech Seed, I think I beat James Evans on stream by Leech Seeding his Groudon and then winning that way. So that was kind of crazy. Yeah, that's Celesteela. Incineroar, the item was questionable, and maybe having Roar was questionable, but it did come in handy often. Just the presence of Roar was nice sometimes, but I didn't end up actually using it that much. I actually used it pretty rarely. The reason why we had Incineroar with safety goggles is because Xerneas and Amoonguss, I wasn't, in my game plan, I wasn't bringing Rayquaza or Koko versus Xerneas, Groudon and Xerneas, and so if they had Amoonguss, all of a sudden, I had Gengar who couldn't taunt, I had Celesteela who could be put to, all my Pokemon could be put to sleep, and, I couldn't stop redirection plus Xerneas. If they let Amoonguss Xern, I really could do nothing to stop it. And so, in the end, I was and the thing is, I'd been using, so originally we had Dark Z Incineroar in this slot with offensive investment. But, so I was already kind of used to not having, recovery on Incineroar. And then I played a game against a Smeargle and I lost. Or maybe I won, but, I think I played against a Smeargle that didn't have Spore. And I was man, I don't want to be forced to bring in Koko every single time I see Amoonguss or Smeargle. That's really annoying. So then, I was like, I'm gonna run Lumberry Incineroar. And Eduardo was like, hey, what if you ran Safety Goggles Roar? And then I was like, what if I did run Safety Goggles Roar? So, yeah, this just made any Amoonguss, Xerneas matchup, you would get a game for free, in theory. In practice, I didn't play a single Amoonguss Xerneas, and neither did Aaron Trailer. And when I did, play it, actually, I played one, and that was the one time it happened, and it won me a game and got me into top cut versus James Beck on stream. That was very funny. Like, where the only time it activated all tournament was on stream of like one of the most important junctures of the tournament. But yeah, I personally don't feel like Incineroar needs Flare Blitz. I never used it when I had it in testing, and even when I did have it, like even when I was testing against Ferrothorn, I often didn't have that many opportunities to even like have Flare Blitz in the end. And so yeah, so in the end I was like, I don't think I need Flare Blitz. So I was using Protect before because I had offensive Incineroar, but I kind of felt like the slot was up for grabs. Like Protect is good, but like I did want more. I wanted to tech against Xerneas and Mungus. So that's why we're in safety goggles. Like I said, it didn't really activate very much, but yeah, that's what I mean. Just because something doesn't actually work in practice doesn't mean you shouldn't. It doesn't work, like it doesn't happen in the tournament doesn't mean it was like a bad idea necessarily. In this case, I think we probably could have gotten away without the safety goggles, but again, I don't really see this team beat Xerneas and Mungus without it. So even though it didn't work necessarily, I still feel like it was necessary. Necessary. Yeah, I ran Darkest Lariat over Throat Chop because well, number one, I didn't realize that Darkest Lariat ignored Dragon Ascent drops. Thank you, Moodyman, for telling me that, because I did not realize that until after the tournament, which is super dumb. I thought it was only defense boosts. But yeah, so I didn't realize that Darkest Lariat had an actual downside, and like, I used Throat Chop in Berlin, and in practice, and at the tournament, like, there was never a situation where Throat Chop's secondary effect of cutting off sound moves was actually going to do anything in my games. Like, if it lasted forever, maybe, but like, the fact that it's just one turn is super dumb. And so that was one thing, and also I knew that my item probably wasn't going to be coming to play quickly, and so if I ran Throat Chop and people saw that I didn't have 50% berry, then I was like, well, what are they going to think, right? They're going to be on guard, and like, they're going to start eliminating options. So at least with Darkest Lariat, I like that it could bluff the Z move. And the power increase, like, Throat Chop does no damage. And even though, like, Darkest Lariat is only 5 base power stronger, I think, the power increase actually feels more, like, meaningful. And so, I don't know. That's why I ran Darkest Lariat over Throat Chop. I know those guys ran Crunch. I didn't even consider Crunch because, like I said, I didn't realize that Darkest Lariat ignored defense drops as well. I still feel like it was a very good play just to bluff people, because people just assumed it was a Z move for a long time. And yeah, having safety goggles as a hidden tech was, I mean, it won me the game that let me win the set that got me into top 8. So it was like, it didn't happen very often, but when it did happen, like, I basically got a free game from it. Not free, that was still a hard game, but like, it let me have a chance at a game that I probably would have lost otherwise. And yeah, and that's like pretty instrumental in my opinion. So yeah, next up, the other interesting spread is Rayquaza. Assaultless Rayquaza is super good. I think max speed is very good on Rayquaza. The moves, I think on Assaultless Rayquaza, you always run Dragon Ascent, Extreme Speed, and Earth Power, and the last move is kind of up for grabs. My friends told me to run Overheat so that I would have something for Ferrothorn or Crunch, so I'd have some more for Lunala. Lunala was a problem, by the way. But I chose Icy Wind because, yeah, I didn't want to beat Ferrothorn. Icy Wind, it was interesting. It's pretty good as a surprise factor. I don't necessarily feel like it's super good, and like it's not super consistent once they know about it. But there were a couple games where like people would volt switch into Rayquaza, or I could feel that they would volt switch into Rayquaza, regular Rayquaza, or like I would call it that Rayquaza was coming in, and I could Icy Wind and get the speed advantage. Kyogre, if it's faster with Icy, like if it has Icy Wind support, is very good, and Rayquaza's super bulky. In the end, Icy Wind was like okay. Like I didn't feel like it was amazing, but it wasn't terrible. Like I wasn't like, oh my god, I have Icy Wind. Like any other move would be better, you know. I feel like that slot on this team, it just techs for what you want to have a better matchup against. So I could tech for Lunala, I could tech for Ferrothorn, or I could just have like a catch me with Icy Wind. So yeah, Icy Wind was pretty good. It was like okay. Earth Power, Dragon Ascent, Extreme Speed. I really like this Rayquaza. In terms of usefulness, like Rayquaza and Koko were probably the best. Rayquaza, Koko, Celesteela were the best mons on the team, and then Kyogre and Incineroar were like okay. But yeah, Rayquaza was really good. This team just has nice speed tiers overall, where like Celesteela and Incineroar are like slow. Oh, also Incineroar's speed stat. I wasn't sure what speed stat to use because like you don't need this much bulk. Like you can drop a couple points of HP and you don't need the defense necessarily. So I was running 84 stat Incineroar, which is common, but I was just speed tying with everybody and it was super annoying. And so I was used to running fast Incineroar, but Marcus suggested slow. In the end, I think fast Incineroar would have been like better in theory, but the problem is that you speed tie a lot, and I didn't have, like, because I definitely wanted to survive Xerneas Moonblast. I couldn't really drop any bulk in the spread, and so because of that, it just made it really awkward for me. And so in the end, I was like, well, I prefer fast Incineroar, but Marcus, so slow Incineroar is a lot better with Mega Gengar because you can slow U-turn into Kyogre, which is really good. It doesn't, like, because they can't fake out your partner with slow Incineroar, so, they can't fake out your partner if you have Gengar next to Incineroar, and so, yeah, so slow Incineroar plus Gengar is very good, but the problem is that I never brought Gengar, and so in the end, I had bad Incineroar the whole tournament, and so I think I probably would have preferred to be faster, but I couldn't really afford it. Anyway, the speed stat underspeeds Lunala after Icy Wind, and so that was pretty valuable. Sorry, Speed stat, underspeeds with Lunala after Icy Wind, which is important because versus Trick Room Lunala, you can Icy Wind it if you think they're going to Tailwind, and then if they Trick Room instead, you can still underspeed it. Never came into play, not in practice or in tournament, but I also only played 3 Lunala and none of them were Trick Room. Tempo, great song. Boys, pretty good song. Water Me and Tempo were my favorite songs from the tournament. I listened to them the most in between rounds. Rayquaza, very strong, like I said. Mega Rayquaza is really good, like an amazing Pokemon. This thing is crazy bulky. It takes like 40% from Kyogre Ice Beam. Even without the power, like increase from Life Orb or Choice Band, which I know is kind of common right now. It still like hits pretty hard. Earth Power Oko and Koko is really nice. Earth Power 2-hit KOing Groudon, doing a ton of damage to Groudon is really nice. Dragon Ascent, a crazy strong move. Like what people don't realize, I think, is that just take a look at like I didn't really realize like. Rayquaza's stats are so good. Like, base 180 attack and base 180 special attack. Hitting 201 special attack stat with no investment. Like, okay, Gengar actually has more special attack. But, like, with no investment, that's crazy. Like, 201 special attack stat without investment is wild. And 210 attack stat, like, with coming off Dragon Ascent, which is a, what, 120 base power move? That's ridiculous power. And Extreme Speed's not weak either. And so Rayquaza just having an incredible combination of bulk and power, and coverage as well. Like not much resists Dragon plus Ground, you know? That is really good coverage, especially when you consider Ice and like just priority in general. And you consider also that you have, you know, Kyogre who's chunking things a lot, and actually Celesteela who's whittling things down as well. You know, because Celesteela, just because, so Kyogre has immediate damage, and Celesteela, because it's hard to remove, can you know, if Kyogre does like 80% to a Pokemon in one hit, and Celesteela does 40 and 2, both of those Pokemon are in Extreme Speed range. It was a little hard to use Rayquaza, I'll be honest with you. Like, because of the prevalence of Incineroar, it's difficult to, without Protect, it's really difficult to maneuver Rayquaza. However, it's got such good natural bulk that it's not impossible, it's just difficult. And so, yeah, Rayquaza was one of the most valuable Pokemon in this tournament. It's just such a good Pokemon. Oh, the spread. I don't, honestly, so, let's just calc this, let me just double check. I believe this lives Xerneas, so it's max speed, obviously, because I think you need that. Hasty feels a little dumb on a bulky Pokemon, but in the end, I think it was the right call. It's just like, it's like you're only specially bulky, you're not physically bulky. And then plus 2 Dazzling Gleam. I believe this is what I EV'd for, and I think it's 10868. Yeah, 168. So I EV'd for plus 2 Dazzling Gleam. Yeah, this thing lives plus 2 Dazzling Gleam most of the time from Timid Xerneas. Frankly, that never came into play, and I think Xerneas will just Moonblast you anyway. So I don't know why. I don't really know why I did that. Like, it doesn't seem super smart. Like, I know people EV for that, but like, why? But just the overall bulk in general was nice. So the side effect of this was that, oh, you guys can't see my calcs, right? A side effect of this was that you actually live Z Moongeist Beam plus Moongeist Beam with the spread, which is crazy. Like, Moongeist Beam's max damage is 2/3, or Z Moongeist Beam is max damage is 2/3, and regular Moongeist Beam is half of that, which is 1/3, and so it never KOs Rayquaza, which is crazy. So that was really nice, and that also meant you could Dragon Ascent in front of Lunala and not have to worry about getting O-Code. So yeah, Rayquaza was super good this tournament. The coverage is good. Like I said, Icy Wind kind of up for grabs. I liked it personally. In hindsight, either Crunch or Overheat would probably have been better just because, like, my team had some big weaknesses, like to Ferrothorn. I should have lost to Ferrothorn, but I didn't because I cheesed it. One of them, I cheesed one of them super hard, like got luckier than I've ever been in my entire life, probably. I think I did like a double Protect into a Leech Seed miss, and also I only won because he was Anticipation Ferrothorn. Like, if he was Iron Barbs, I would have lost, but he was Anticipation for some reason, and so yeah, just I got super lucky. So that was that. Yeah. And the other one I won just by like in a 3 versus 1, and I also felt kind of cheesy in that one, although I don't think I literally got lucky. Last Pokemon is Fitness. I'm sorry, this has been taking a while, but you know what? I don't do that much serious content, so you guys are fine. Standard Koko. In the end, Koko was the last Pokemon we added. I didn't feel good about our opposing Koko matchup because in theory nothing necessarily beats it, but it's just kind of like a playing thing where if Koko is Volt Switching, if the opposing Koko is Volt Switching, it's not doing that much damage, and if it's staying in, then you have a chance to hit it. So yeah, Koko was really good this tournament. I haven't used Koko since, I actually don't remember the last time I used Koko. In 2017, I remember I used it, but I don't know if I used it in I used it on the Steelix team in 2018. But yeah, Koko has never been a mon that I've been super comfortable with, just because it's like, it doesn't really make sense in my head. But this Koko was super good. Just the immediate speed that you have, the fact that you're moving first a lot of the time, is really good. Volt Switch into stuff and Volt Switch is an amazing move, let's be honest. Like, Volt Switch is one of the best moves in the game. Just especially in a team with Rayquaza, Incineroar, and Kyogre, and, you know, also good defensive switching with Celesteela. Being able to Volt Switch into if you have Kyogre on the field, they have Groudon, you can switch out and Volt Switch into, get your Kyogre back in play. You can Volt Switch into Rayquaza, Volt Switch, see what they do, go into Incineroar, Volt Switch, it just steal it depending on stuff. It's just very nice, and the chip damage adds up, especially because, like, Z-Dazzling Gleam isn't that strong. It won't OHKO a lot of stuff, but when you're chipping things, when you have Extreme Speed, when you have, you know, Volt Switch to ship things down, it can be very good. Z-Dazzling Gleam gave me a good matchup against opposing Rayquaza if they weren't Assault Vest, and also against opposing Coco, gave you a way to OHKO, so, I mean, I didn't like going for it, but you did have that option. Just Z-Dazzling Gleam into it. It was also just nice to have, like, a quick burst damage against stuff. Like, against games back, I think I Z-Dazzling Gleamed and Earth Powered into his Incineroar to knock it out, which was good. Thunderbolt doesn't do that much. I don't think. I'm pretty sure he did. I'm almost positive Z-Dazzling Gleam is stronger. I'd be shocked if it wasn't. And also, like, it's just nice to have, like, a move on Coco that will do a little bit more damage, especially against ground types. So, like, versus Gastrodon, I had a hard time in theory, and versus Groudon, I actually put James Evans's Groudon and play in range of Leech Seed by hitting it on the switch in with a Z-Dazzling Gleam, and I think a Heavy Slam, which did like 4 damage. But yeah, the quick burst damage is nice, and the ability to OHKO other Coco is good. And just like, yeah, there's a lot of Pokemon that Fairy hits for neutral. Also, it does good damage to Xerneas. I don't think I ever hit a Xerneas with it, to be honest, but like with Fairy Aura boosting it, it definitely puts it in range of Extreme Speed. And yeah, like just being able to do 50% to Incineroar, put it in Earth Power range, depending on the spread, and your rolls as well. It was just a really solid Pokemon. I put 4 in Special Defense because I think that changed the role on opposing Z-Dazzling Gleam, so I was like, well, if we're gambling anyway, like, we may as well put the odds a little bit more in our favor. I considered dropping Special Attack to always live opposing Z-Dazzling Gleam, but that's something that 2016 me would have done, that's something 2013 me would have done, 2014 me would have done it. This year I was like, that's dumb. I'm just gonna go. If I have to go for Speed Ties, I have to go for Speed Ties. I'm not dropping Power in general, just to have a little bit more bulk for something that might not even come up, and I might win the Speed Tie anyway. So that was a good call because the Special Attack mattered a lot. The only weird thing on the set, is Thunderbolt. I know people have used Nature's Madness. I know people use Thunder. I know people use Wild Charge. I personally felt that Thunderbolt was the best call, and I'm very glad I did that. There was a lot of times where Coco would survive with just a little bit of HP, where Wild Charge would knock me out. There was a lot of times, Coco often is not in the weather, so having Thunder on Coco is just such a gamble. It's a little bit less of a gamble if you have Z Electric, but in general, it just feels super unsafe to me. So, Thunderbolt was the right call, like, I think. And there was a lot of times where I would want to use an electric, I would want to, hit something for big damage, but not want to switch out, like versus Kyogre, for example. Being able to use Thunderbolt was really good. Yeah, and that's the team. So, this is, I didn't script this out, if you couldn't tell. So, I know it was a little all over the place, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. The team report will be better, it'll be more in-depth, so make sure you check that out once it's live. We're working on writing that now. The written report, sorry. But yeah, overall, I'm really happy with this team. There were some flaws, there were some things that were inefficient, but overall, I'm very happy with the team. I think I played well with it. There were moments where I didn't play well, but overall, yeah, I'm very happy to have won an event after over a year's drought of not winning. And I'm really happy to finish, I think I was 4th overall in the standings. So yeah, this team won me like $10,000 in total, between like $5,000 for first and like the travel awards and stuff. But more importantly, it got me my day 2 invite, which is my goal at the beginning of the season. So I'm really happy to have, accomplished my goal, especially after it was looking not really feasible. After, you bomb 5 events in a row and things are, you're starting to think maybe this goal is out of reach, even though it shouldn't be, right? So having such a strong end to my season, I feel really good going into Worlds. I feel like this format makes a lot of sense to me. Worlds is going to be difficult, but starting in day 2, I feel very good, considering since 2014, I've had to play through every year, 2014, 16, 17, 18, with the exception of 15. So I just feel very good starting in day 2. So yeah, very proud of this team. Celesteela MVP. Yeah, there's probably things that I missed. Everything will be more in depth for the actual written report. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. It was a lot of fun to use. Thank you to everyone who cheered me on. It was really nice getting so much support over the weekend. So yeah, really appreciate that. Appreciate you guys. And yeah, if you want the other teams, they're in the sub Discord. And I think that's it. So thank you for watching if you made it this far. No, and this wasn't like as entertaining, but it's, that's just the nature of this kind of content. We'll be back with your regularly scheduled me being an idiot soon. So yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time. Goodbye.